In Shinjo City, contract killer Sakata finishes honing the edge of his blade, then slips behind the wheel of his sleek luxury car and drives off. A short time later, inside a seaside mansion, several Yakuza underlings brief their boss, Kawano, reporting that a newcomer gang is trying to seize control of the city. Disgusted by their ineptitude, Kawano rams a knife into one thug's belly and slashes another across the face. Outside, Sakata infiltrates the grounds, silently eliminating every guard he encounters. Blood soon drips down a window frame, and a pair of legs dangles from another window. Only then do the thugs realize an intruder is present. They scramble to spirit Kawano away. While Sakata continues dispatching sentries on the rooftop, the men attempt to usher Kawano out the front door, but fallen bodies block the exit, so they haul him up to the second floor instead. Sakata's blade flashes as he carves through the attackers, sending them tumbling back down the staircase. Kawano finally reaches his getaway car, only to discover the driver already dead. After cutting down a few more goons, Sakata is hurled through a glass door by one burly gangster. The two tumble into a brutal hand-to-hand brawl, slamming each other into furniture and snatching up anything within reach as makeshift weapons. Sakata is knocked flat and the thug straddles him to stab, but Sakata severs the man's hand and leaves him bleeding out on the floor. Sakata then bursts into Kawano's bedroom, using a fallen henchman's body as a shield against Kawano's gunfire. Panicking, Kawano bolts toward the balcony, but Sakata overtakes him and deals the fatal blow. A remaining thug tries to shoot Sakata from behind, only to be gunned down first by Sakata's handler, Fujita. Heading out, Fujita hands Sakata his fee for the hit and urges him to stay in the game, but Sakata declines, saying his family now comes first. Unbeknownst to them, a mysterious onlooker watches from the shadows. Sakata returns home to his wife, Aoi, and their daughter, Ryo. After a quick shower, he joins them for dinner. As Sakata changes clothes, terrified screams echo from the living room. He rushes out to find masked men, each wearing a demon visage, surrounding his family. The intruders thank Sakata for wiping out Kawano's clan, explaining that their own organization, the Kaimengumi, can now dominate the city. When one thug grabs Ryo, Sakata tackles him and draws his gun, but he hesitates when another mask fires a shot into the tabletop. That hesitation lets the men pummel Sakata to the floor. Ryo pleads for her father's safety, prompting Aoi to push the girl aside while she sobs for mercy. Annoyed by her crying, one assailant executes Aoi with a bullet to the head. Enraged, Sakata tells Ryo to run and lunges at the attackers, but another gunshot strikes the girl. Crushed by grief, Sakata breaks down. The gang's leader then recounts an old legend. A demon emerges in the city every 50 years, possesses someone, and unleashes a wave of slaughter. The Kaimengumi exist to thwart that evil. Though shattered, Sakata vows that one day he will hunt them all down and kill every last one. The man tells Sakata they'll be waiting for the day he comes after them, then shoots him as well. Not long after, the police discover the bodies and assume Sakata killed Aoi and Ryo before taking his own life. 12 years later, Mayor Tsunohara speaks to the press, boasting about how he transformed Shinjo City from a violent, crime-ridden area into a flourishing hub of progress. He announces the opening of a new integrated resort that will feature a theater, shopping center, and casino. During the press conference, a journalist named Kamiyama tries to bring up the numerous missing persons and unsolved murders over the past decade, including the suspicious disappearance of a key figure who opposed the resort's construction. But Tsunohara brushes it all off, calling the claims baseless rumors. Meanwhile, Sakata, who has been in a vegetative state for the past 12 years, is being held in a medical prison. When his sentence finally comes to an end, Fujita arrives to retrieve him and brings him to a shabby apartment in the city's slums, revealing that Shinjo's shiny image is nothing more than propaganda. Days go by, and Sakata is cared for by Raj, a relative of Fujita. Raj bathes him, feeds him, and takes him on daily walks. One evening, while returning to the apartment, they are suddenly attacked by a thug who screams Sakata's name and stabs him in the arm. It turns out the attacker is the same gangster whose hand Sakata severed years ago, and he's been waiting all this time for revenge. Yet even as blood spills, Sakata doesn't react. At the same time, Kamiyama is meeting with the Scarface thug from Kawano's old gang to learn more about the Kaimengumi. The man claims Sakata was actually working for the Kaimengumi back then, and Kamiyama observes that the date of the attack lines up exactly with the day the resort was approved for its business license. It also coincides with the time Sunahara rose to political power. The thug explains that the Kaimengumi's wealth comes from human trafficking and drug smuggling. Before they can go further, a masked man smashes the window of the van they are in, and Kamiyama bolts out in fear. The masked figure chases after him wielding a hammer, while a second masked man drags the thug out of the vehicle. They then place the hammer in the thug's hand and hand him a gun, forcing him to take his own life. After watching him die, the masked men receive an important phone call. Elsewhere, Fujita is at home, playing ping pong while thinking about Sakata's situation. He reflects on how he was the one who told the Kaimengumi about Sakata's family, but they ignored his plea to spare them. Just then, he gets a phone call, and the news leaves him stunned. At a hospital, Police Chief Kotaro checks in on a man who was injured in a fight between homeless people in the neighborhood. He slips the two officers standing guard some money so they'll leave him alone, then enters the hospital room. The patient turns out to be Sakata. Kotaro steps closer, and as he puts on a demon mask, he asks Sakata if he remembers him. This confirms that Kotaro is one of the Kaimengumi responsible for the slaughter of Sakata's family. Kotaro pulls a syringe from his coat pocket and explains that 12 years ago, once the group realized Sakata had survived, orders came down not to shoot him again, but Kotaro always believed they should have finished the job. He injects something into Sakata's foreline, unaware that the sound of his voice is gradually stirring Sakata from his vegetative state. When Kotaro leans in to snap a selfie, he notices Sakata start to move. Startled, Kotaro stumbles and Sakata seizes the moment. He grabs Kotaro, drags him down, and clamps a chokehold on him. Kotaro flails, smacking Sakata with whatever objects are within reach, then follows with a flurry of kicks that leave Sakata dazed. Just then, the two guards return. Kotaro yanks off the demon mask so they won't open fire. Once their backs are turned, he slips the mask on again and silently shoots one officer in the face, muffling the blast with a pillow. The second guard is unfazed. He, too, belongs to the Kaimengumi. But when they realize a doctor has witnessed everything, they gun him down as well. Abruptly, Sakata jolts upright and tackles Kotaro, prompting the remaining guard to rush in. A three-way brawl erupts. The guard winds up wedged between the bed and the wall, while Kotaro rains kicks on Sakata. Sakata lands a heavy blow to Kotaro's head, then loops the four-tubing around his throat. Kotaro wrestles free. In the tussle, they shove the trap guard through the window. Sakata loops the four-line a second time, and when Kotaro tears it away, Sakata whips the bedsheet around his neck and finishes the job, strangling him to death. Moments later, Fujita and Raj arrive, stunned to see Sakata walking out of the ward alive. On the way, Sakata snatches a tray of food, an act that floods his mind with memories of his family's murder, intensifying his resolve for vengeance. Word of Sakata's return reaches every corner of the Kaimengumi Empire, from the illicit factory floor to the traffickers moving girls for sale. Their leader, elated, calls Sakata a demon unleashed upon the city and begins a celebratory dance rooted in an ancient ritual. Not long after, Fujita receives a terse order from the Kaimengumi: delivers Sakata's corpse. Fujita, Raj, and Sakata head to the factory. Upon arrival, they haul a large bag, supposedly holding Sakata's body, onto a conveyor belt and depart. As the bag rolls along, Sakata bursts free, decks the nearest guard, and exits the room. Watching the security feed, factory boss Takamoto spots Sakata battling his workers and immediately alerts the gate sentry, who opens fire on Fujita's van as it pulls away. Raj is killed instantly in the gunfire, while Fujita takes a hit but survives. He quickly retaliates, shooting back at the guards to keep them at bay. Inside the factory, Takamoto consumes some of the very drugs his operation produces, then dons the demon mask, confirming that he was one of the men responsible for the slaughter of Sakata's family. Meanwhile, Sakata tears through the factory's intersections, eliminating every thug in his path using anything within reach, smashing heads against walls, slamming faces into railings, and slamming bodies into heavy machinery. At one point, a worker lifts Sakata with a loader truck, buries him under trash, and dumps him onto the floor. Sakata quickly retaliates by throwing a knife and killing the operator. Another worker speeds toward him on a cart, firing a weapon. Sakata leaps onto the vehicle, derails it, and seizes the gun to mow down several more attackers. As more enemies leap onto the cart to stop him, Sakata pulls out his blade and dispatches them one by one. Moments before the cart crashes, he jumps off to safety and continues storming through the facility. Fueled by vengeance, Sakata fights his way up a staircase and down a corridor, killing every man who dares get in his way. He eventually makes it to the upper office level, just in time to spot Takamoto outside, pressing something on his phone. Suddenly, a massive explosion engulfs the building. Takamoto receives a call from the Kaimengumi leader, who saw the blast and congratulates him on a job well done. But the celebration is cut short when Takamoto sees Sakata walking out of the wreckage, shielding himself with a fireproof blanket. It looks like a fight is about to begin, but before it can, Fujita barrels into Takamoto with a vehicle, running him over. Bloodied and collapsing to his knees, Fujita vomits blood and confesses to Sakata that he was the one who told the Kaimengumi about his family years ago. He acknowledges that he deserves to die, and without hesitation, Sakata shoots him. Afterward, Sakata strings up Takamoto and begins to beat him mercilessly. Takamoto only laughs through the pain, declaring undying loyalty to his leader. At that moment, Takamoto's phone rings, and Sakata hears the voice of the leader himself. Enraged, Sakata rips Takamoto's mask off. The voice on the phone then reveals shocking news. Sakata's daughter is still alive. The leader is none other than Mayor Sunohara. He justifies everything, claiming the city's prosperity is funded by the Kaimengumi's criminal operations, human trafficking, drugs, and violence. Sunohara tells Sakata that if he ever wants to see his daughter again, he must spare Takamoto. But Sakata ignores the demand and kills Takamoto anyway. The next morning, reporters cover the string of violent incidents from the night before. They blame Sakata for everything and declare him dead, saying he perished in the factory explosion. In reality, Sakata is alive, while his daughter Rio, now a teenager, is being held under the watch of Kanta, another masked member of the Kaimengumi. Kanta oversees their human trafficking business and is shown leering at Rio in disturbing ways. Mayor Sunohara calls Kanta, instructing him to find Sakata, who has gone into hiding since the attack. Elsewhere, in a modest neighborhood, police officer Takigawa returns to his apartment and notices the window is ajar. Suddenly, Sakata reveals himself from the shadows, startling Takigawa. It's revealed that years ago, Sakata saved Takigawa's life, and ever since, the officer has been secretly feeding him information. Takigawa shows Sakata a video of the Kaimengumi brutally executing the CEO of a security company. He even has the severed finger of the victim as proof. This company now controls security for the new resort, revealing how deep the gang's influence runs. Sakata steals Takigawa's gun and heads straight to the security company's headquarters. There, he makes his way through the building floor by floor, ruthlessly eliminating thugs along the way. Eventually, he reaches a private living area where Rio is hiding behind a couch. In the room, Sakata finds a wall covered in photos of Rio, all showing Kanta posing as her father. Just then, Kanta walks in and instantly engages Sakata in combat. As the fight breaks out, Rio seizes the opportunity to flee while Sakata gains the upper hand, slamming Kanta into furniture all across the room. Kanta retaliates by smashing a table over Sakata's back and attempts to shoot him, but Sakata dodges and the two begin grappling for the weapon. During the struggle, Kanta hits Sakata with a decorative object and throws insults at him, one of which triggers Sakata's memory. He realizes Kanta was the man who murdered his wife 12 years ago. With the gun jammed, Sakata prepares to finish Kanta by hand. Suddenly, Rio returns and, to Sakata's shock, calls Kanta father. She shoots Sakata with her school archery bow. He's too stunned to react, and the arrow strikes him in the chest. Kanta then takes advantage of the moment and shoves Sakata out the window. Looking down, Kanta sees Sakata escaping in a vehicle. It turns out Takigawa is behind the wheel, having rescued Sakata and taken him to a safe location where he removes the arrow and tends to the wound. At that moment, Takigawa receives a call from Sunahara, who saw everything through the resort's security cameras. He demands to speak with Sakata and tells him that if he wants to see Ryo again, he must come to the resort. Ignoring his injury, Sakata drives to his old hideout, where he retrieves his signature blade and sleek car. Meanwhile, Ryo is now locked in a room within the heavily guarded resort. There are armed guards stationed on every floor and in every hallway. Suddenly, Sakata's empty car appears outside, serving as a distraction. As the guards focus on it, Sakata sneaks into the resort and begins killing them one by one, using his blade and the guns he collects from fallen enemies. He also improvises with various objects around him, including cargo carts and fire extinguishers. As he fights his way up the stairs, the killing spree continues. Sakata moves relentlessly, taking down any thug in his way. Most are easy targets, but eventually he faces an opponent armed with a sword who manages to injure him before being killed. Pushing through the pain, Sakata presses on until he finally comes face to face with Kana again. They clash once more, and at first, their combat skills appear evenly matched. As they trade attacks, Kanta begins taunting Sakata, boasting about how he arrived just in time to see Ryo's body starting to mature, adding disturbingly perverse details. When Kanta moves to stab him, Sakata blocks the blade and takes only a cut across his cheek. Sakata quickly grabs Kanta's sword, drives it straight into his eye, and slams his head to the ground, knocking him unconscious. But more thugs come rushing in, forcing Sakata to keep fighting. By the time he reaches the final floor, he's bloodied and utterly exhausted. When he enters a room, he's stunned to find Ryo standing there, grown up but distant. She doesn't recognize him. The moment of distraction allows the last masked man, Jin, to ambush Sakata and knock him out cold. A short while later, Sakata is dragged before Mayor Sunahara, with Ryo standing beside him. Sunahara begins explaining the ancient legend of the city demon, how once every generation, one man becomes consumed by vengeance and destruction. He declares that Sakata should now fully embrace the role of that demon. With that, Sunahara raises his sword to kill Ryo as a final push, but Takigawa bursts in, guns blazing. The guns down most of the guards, forcing Sunahara to use one of his own men as a shield before fleeing the room. Hearing his daughter's name called, Ryo suddenly remembers what really happened during the attack years ago. The shot hadn't hit her, but her toy. She breaks down in tears and runs off with Takigawa to hide, while Sakata faces off against Jin, who wields a long metal staff. Sunahara returns to spectate, amused as Jin easily dominates Sakata. Sakata is barely able to get a few hits in, while Jin relentlessly beats him down. After an extended, grueling fight, Sakata finds a brief opening, stabs Jin, and throws him down the stairs. Sunahara rushes to Jin's side and removes his mask, revealing that Jin is actually his twin brother, distinguished only by a large burn scar on his face. A flashback shows that the brothers were kept apart in their youth, but once reunited, Jin became utterly devoted to Sunahara, willing to kill on command. Meanwhile, Takigawa is leading Ryo to safety, but she refuses to leave. She decides to go back for her father. Sunahara dons the leader's demon mask and engages Sakata in a final sword duel. Sakata, already gravely injured, struggles to keep up. Sunahara slashes him repeatedly, eventually severing his free hand. Still, Sakata refuses to give in. He drags his broken body forward and keeps attacking. Sunahara fends off each strike, thrilled at the sight. He believes Sakata has truly become the demon of legend. With a final burst of energy, both men lunge and stab each other simultaneously. Sakata uses the opportunity to tear off Sunahara's mask and finishes him off with a deadly blow to the head. Then, mortally wounded, he tumbles down the stairs and locks eyes with Ryo, who saw everything. She tries to approach him, but Kanta suddenly reappears and shoots Sakata from behind. Kanta then turns to Ryo, hoping to reunite with her. But Ryo, now fully aware of the truth, wants nothing to do with the man who murdered her mother. As Kanta pleads for her affection, Sakata rises behind him one last time and drives his blade through Kanta's body, killing him for good. Sakata collapses in Ryo's arms, whispering a few final words of love and comfort before dying. Later, Police, firefighters, and medics arrive at the resort to collect the bodies and tend to the injured. Among the bodies is Jean, still alive. Rio is placed in an ambulance and told to wait. But while everyone is distracted, she quietly slips away. A year passes. Jean, now pretending to be his brother Sunahara, wins the city election by manipulating public sympathy for his facial scar. After giving a public interview, he returns to the forest shrine where he performs the Kaiman Gumi ritual, wearing the leader's demon mask. But Rio is already there. She shoots Jean with multiple arrows, killing him at last. She then drives away in her father's old car, a family photo resting on the dashboard beside her.